Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the August 2nd regular meeting of the Oyster River Cooperative School Board. And let's see, our first order of business is approval of the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda? Gianna?
I motion to approve the agenda.
Second? Tom? Okay. All in favor? And we have 7 in favor. Any public comments this evening? I do not see any members of the public. Next up then is approval of the regular meeting minutes for September 19th. Can I have a motion? Heather?
I motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of July 19th.
Second? Matt? Any corrections? Heather?
I'm sorry, Karen, I didn't send these to you. On page 1, in the revision of the previous regular meeting minutes, under bullet point 3, it currently reads brining culturally inclusive food, which is technically correct. You can brine food, yay. But I think that one's supposed to be bringing culturally inclusive food to the dining services. But I was really tickled with that one. I really enjoyed it.
Any other corrections? Okay, then all in favor? 7 in favor. And that is it. We don't have any non-public from that night. Announcements, commendations, and comments from the district.
Sorry. Good evening, Misty Lowe from Massway. I hope everyone's having a good summer. Things are going well at Massway in preparation of the first day of school. It's an exciting time knowing that our students will be coming in just a few weeks. There are a few projects happening at Massway. We have a shed project in process. We had folks working on the parking lot today to make some repair there. We have air handlers being replaced, which will help with our flooding issue that we had back in December. So HVAC project is happening. And the most exciting for me is the cafeteria wall. It seems very small and minor, just a little hole in the wall, but what a difference that's going to make for the students as well as our kitchen staff. It's going to give them so much more room and be a much safer setting for food service. I wanted to let you know registration's underway. I want to encourage any families who are listening to please not hesitate to call the school if they need any help with the registration. Soon to follow will be class placement. And once you hear what school you're assigned to for kindergarten and for what teacher you're assigned to, our classroom teachers are itching to send those personalized letters to introduce themselves and welcome you to their classroom. And I'm embarrassed to say my computer just died, so I'm going to do the rest by memory. There are some really important dates, and we have a beautiful new website, so I will not be able to remember all these dates, but I ask people to please check out the new website for the district and Massway's page. You will see the dates for new family tours. I'm offering 4 family tours in the month of August to people who are new, of course, a lot of our kindergarten families, as well as any other folks that have moved into district. I met a family yesterday that just moved in from Newmarket. So I love to be able to meet them in small groups and walk them around and show them the school. So those dates are online. We also have meet and greets scheduled. It's important to us to offer an opportunity for students to come in and meet their teachers, see their classrooms before school starts, kind of ease that worry about when I get off the bus, where do I go type of thing. So we'll also have some meet and greets scheduled. There's other opportunities happening. ORPP and ORAA are partnering to do kindergarten meetup, which is just a low-key fun activity on the playground that will be happening so that new families can meet one another and network. So there's a lot of things happening in the month of August in preparation for the start of the school year I wanted to share. I'm sorry I don't have the dates. Questions for me? Yeah, of course.
Good evening, Rebecca Noe, principal of Oyster River High School. I have some dates I announced last time. Oh, it's on. Okay, that's okay. I'll be louder. Okay, that better? Okay. All right, I have the same dates as last time, but I want to make sure that everyone is aware of them. So August 11th is when football practice begins. The 14th is when all other sports begin practicing. The 16th is when our counselors have the College Career Planning 101, and there are 2 sessions of that. One is from 8 to 11 in the morning, and the other is from 12 to 3 in the afternoon, and that's one that students do want to register for on their school email address. On the 17th, we have a Welcome to High School for parents and for new students. We have 2 sessions of that. One is from 1 to 3 in the afternoon, and the other is from 5 to 7 in the evening. And the 25th is our freshman orientation, but we also do invite our transfer students. If any students want to come and follow their schedule and just see the school, they're welcome to come to that also. And that is from 11:30 to 3 on the 25th. And then the 30th is our first day of school. 2 added announcements. One, our counselors are back in the building August 21st, so students are welcome to make appointments with them if they need to come in for anything and see their counselor. We also have new registration with counselors those days. And then also, Andrea Von Oyen is one of the semifinalists this year for Teacher of the Year. So she just gave her speech the other day, and we should know in a couple weeks if she's moving on or not with that program. But we all know what a wonderful teacher she is, an amazing person. And so just very proud of her. I wanted to make sure we acknowledged her moving on in that process. So any questions for me? Okay, thank you.
Hi, everyone. Bill Sullivan, middle school interim principal. It's nice to see everyone here. Just a few things from the middle school. I will let everyone know here that Alita Carter will be our new assistant principal this year. She's coming from our PE department, and very excited to work with her. It's going to be great. She's got a lot of energy and really looking forward to getting things going. Our big thing this summer, as most of you know, we've had ESY at our building. We've had the REACH camps hosted out of our building. And tomorrow, ESY ends, and is REACH? And REACH is over tomorrow too, so it's going to start to be a little quieter here for us. And we'll get our custodians in, and they'll start getting our rooms ready, and everything will be going for when the kids show up. Our big date for our new student orientation will be Thursday, the 24th, and that'll be in the morning, and we've been sending letters out to new families, and any kids that are coming in registering, we're letting parents know as well. Our big project outside, if you saw it tonight, we're getting bleachers put in. We'll have a retaining wall at the bottom of the hill with bleachers so families and spectators can have a good view of what's going on our new turf. Any questions? Tom?
I was going by the construction of the bleachers. Did they have a ledge that they had to, so there's like a lot of rock that they had to knock out for that, right?
So I was going to mention that in my report. So the bleachers are underway. The complication is that, as with the entire piece of property, there's quite a bit of ledge. And so I'll have an update on that at the next meeting. But it won't stop the project.
Is there an ETA for that to be complete?
Before the start of school, as far as I know.
It will be early September. It may trip over into the first week.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, board updates. I know it's summer still, so there's not a lot. All right then. Moving right along, Assistant Superintendent.
Good evening. I just want to reiterate what Misty said about registration. Registration is open for parents and guardians to go in and register their students. We're asking parents and guardians to complete registration by the 16th, so it's a 2-week period. We will send reminders, and if people have any problems at all, we're asking that families reach out to the school that their child will be attending, and we can help them with that and work through any supports that they need to register. And placement letters, we were hoping to have those out on Friday. We're having we're having some complications with two systems talking to each other and making sure they're doing it correctly because we have a new messaging system. So we're going to iron that out, and they may end up going out on Monday instead of Friday. So we apologize to families not needing to wait through the weekend to get those, but we're getting those out as soon as we possibly can. We want to make sure that we send them accurately. So it may take a little bit more time.
So are they being sent out electronically then? Is that?
Yes, they'll be
okay.
sent out electronically, and if a family doesn't receive one, then again, we encourage people just to reach out to the school. But we'll be doing that at latest the early next week. And we'll put it on social media too. So just like registration, we sent that out electronically. We'll post it on the website. We put it out through social media as well.
So I will say that the format of the new parent portal emails is much nicer than the ones we used to get through School Messenger, so I'm already a fan. And I got both of my kiddos registered in about 15 minutes, and most of that 15 minutes was me actually scrolling through the handbooks so I could say I actually read them.
Well, thank you for doing that. We made
So it's really quick and painless. It's really
Yeah.
fast.
The principals and the schools worked really hard to get those handbooks up electronically in time for registration, to get registration out. So I'm glad that was helpful. Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Superintendent's report.
Yeah, just to give you an update on where we are in terms of enrollment. Everything has been really stable. The kindergartens have creeped up, but not in a way that causes us great concern. You can see that when we started the process, Massway was below 15. Now they're all at 16 except for one, so that's going in the right direction. On the other hand, Mohammed is at its maximum at 18, so kindergarten enrollment looks good. The two problem children for, pun intended, for Misty and David are the 3rd and 4th grade. They don't exceed the district's class size policy, but they are very much on the edge of it. So again, that's where we were in the spring. That's where we are now in August. So I expect that it'll be pretty close to where we are when we hit September. So that's that. The middle school is in great shape. There's no issues that we have concern about there. And the high school is also in good shape, so there's no issues there as well. So I think the enrollment is really in a good place. The other issue that I just wanted to bring up is related to staffing. Of course, as we have had in the past, our paraeducator, we're struggling to fill those, all of those roles. We're struggling to fill all the bus driver roles, but we've been struggling for that since pre-COVID. So that's a reflection of the job market. The teaching positions, we've been real good at filling them. There are a couple of positions that we had to re-envision, or at least one position we had to re-envision, and we'll be talking to One World Language about contracting out the Spanish position at the middle school, which we've done in the past with them. The position we had to re-envision is Al Lofgren's position. As we started out in the spring, and we're going to run into this across in the next budget year as well, the colleges aren't producing certified industrial arts teachers anymore. Al was a very flexible guy, and he moved his program more towards technology with the support of Janet Martell. And so, we advertised in April, we advertised slightly differently in May, we advertised again slightly differently in June, and one of our in-house teachers who had expressed interest early on expressed interest again, but in order to do that, we had to re-envision the position more along the hands-on technology approach as opposed to the hands-on build something with wood and screws and nails. So we've got the position filled. The person who's going to do that work is a phenomenal educator, so I'm confident that the kids will still have a three-dimensional experience. It's just not going to be the same experience that has happened in the past. The reason I bring it up is because we're going to probably run into the same situation next year at the high school as if our shop teacher retires, then we'll have the same dilemma all over again. So the job market is part of that, but the certification is really what's impacting those two positions. The job market has had an impact in terms of 3 of the positions that we hired this year, where we are bringing in really novice teachers. And we've not had to bring in novice teachers in the past. By that, I mean they're out of teacher college going into their first year of teaching. And administration is committed to making sure that those new teachers have the support necessary to be successful, and they will monitor them personally to make sure that they are successful. So that's a direct impact of the job market, just that we're now competing in a world where there's a shortage in a lot of areas in education. We're fortunate in Oyster River that we had the applications, because some of our neighbors are not even getting the applications. So overall, we're in good shape. I do have concern as we, move forward in a market like this. And, it all sounds really great to have, a 2.9% unemployment rate in the state of New Hampshire, quote unquote, the best in the country. But what that means is there's less people vying for jobs. So the good news is people have jobs if they want them. The unfortunate news is we may not be able to fill all the positions that we want to fill with the people we normally fill with, and we'll have to be more creative as we were with Al's position.
I have a question about, as you were talking about the high school and the possibility of the intro to like woodworking and some of those classes, do freshmen have the option to go to the career tech to take those types of intro I know they can in later years, but I just didn't know if freshmen have that opportunity.
So unfortunately, New Hampshire and Maine are 2 states that largely cater to the junior senior population. If you go to Massachusetts, it's a full-fledged 9 through 12 program. The CTEs have been willing to take sophomores. Have we been successful in getting freshmen into the program? No. So they've been taking selective sophomores, but they haven't been.
The programs at the CTE aren't intro-level classes, they're full programs. So you wouldn't go for exploration. That's why at the high school we like to have a lot of exploratory classes, like the family consumer science classes that Nick Ricciardi teaches, and Mike Troy has traditionally taught an electricity class and woodworking and a variety of other classes so that kids can dabble in different areas and make determinations if they do want to go to CTE programming. But most of the programs are 2 years. There are a couple of them that are 3-year programs, but you don't have to do all 3 years. You can do the 2 years.
I know that Dover, I don't know if they still do, but I know at one time their 9th grade offering wasn't exploratory. It was sort of a type of, class where they would do a few weeks in each area so that students could get an idea of, oh, I really like the building as opposed to the electricity or whatsoever. And I guess my question was, if we had 9th graders that were really interested, is it possible for them to take that intro class at Dover?
So that sounds like it may not be part of the CTE, it may be part of the high school. We'd have to learn more about what that course is. And if there's a great interest, Becca has done an amazing job working with faculty to bring courses to the high school if kids do have interest. So if that's something we need to look at, I'm sure that Becca could look at that as an option for students.
I would also add that Dover, Somersworth, Rochester, Exeter all host the CTE programs, which offers them incredible flexibility.
Yeah.
And this is one of the shortcomings of the regional model when you don't have it, and we're one of the few high schools that are impacted by not having a CTE program, that kind of flexibility isn't available for us. So we can reach out to Dover and see whether they would be interested in doing that, and we'll see what they say. That's it for me. Any questions from the board? Heather?
I just want to confirm, these are the balanced kindergarten numbers for Massaway-Moheramet.
Yes, David and Misty and I sat at the end of July. We went through all the numbers. We adjusted a couple that people had asked in advance. One went to Moheramet from the Massaway community, and one went to Moheramet from the Massaway community. David made some phone calls for K parents who lived on the edge of the Massaway area, and the parents were saying, thank you for calling, but no, we're settled and that's where we want to go. So we absolutely did that.
I have one more for you. 3 new tuition students in 8th grade. That's kind of exciting.
So the Strings program brought in one last year. And then a couple of families in surrounding communities that are not as happy with their current program were willing to pay the freight, to pay the tuition to come in, and we have the room. We also are seeing a few more tuition students at the high school outside of Barrington. So it's a lot of money for parents to pay tuition. You know, we're talking $19,000 plus, and usually when they ask me that question, I give them that answer. It's like, oh, well, thank you. But some people, you know, they want it desperately, and they're willing to pay for it. So, yeah, I think, quite honestly, one of the things that the board might consider in the future is marketing the middle school, quite honestly, because you'll have space like you had at the high school. And I'm not saying get into a tuition agreement with a town, but market it as if it's a charter school, market it as if it's a private school, and see if you can bring in, you know, a dozen tuition-paying students. I think that the middle school program and the building, the teachers, the attractiveness of the district, you may find that there are people out there who are willing to pay a private tuition rate to come to a public school, and that's an option, something you should consider as you move forward in thinking about the middle school.
Okay, thank you. Business administrator. Okay, thank you. And we don't have student representative. Finance committee? Nothing yet. When are you having your first meeting?
It's the first day of school.
Oh, okay. Okay. August 30th, okay. All right, Superintendent Search Committee.
So you all have in your packet the draft of the advertisement for the superintendent. And we tried to do a couple of different things with this. First, we wanted to get sort of the nuts and bolts of where we are and that bit shortened and put up front so it's sort of done and dusted. And then really focus on who we are as a district, what our vision is, and give candidates an opportunity to read through that and try thinking about how they would fit into that in working with us. And we hit the strategic plan, we hit sustainability in DEIJ, we hit our students and their student voice being a valued voice. We hit some of the high marks that we thought were fun to highlight, as well as things like a supportive community. And we also tried to sell that we have a really supportive community that we that is invested in education, and it's a trusting relationship. So this is the draft.
Thank you. I thought you did an excellent job. I had one tiny, literally one letter in the back on the second page, the bullet points at the top. The last one, supportive community with a high pass rate of budget and contracts. Since contracts is plural, I didn't know if budgets should be plural as well. It's probably real nitpicky, but that is literally the only thing I saw. I thought it looked really good. Other board members' comments?
I thought it was well done. My only quibble, I suppose, is I was wondering if there'd be space for us to be able to mention that we have a DEIJ director, because DEIJ is mentioned in the paragraph at the end of the first page, but that easily could be interpreted as, you know, just within like the student body. And considering that we're one of the few districts that actually has hired a DEIJ director, and we've put an incredible amount of work and political capital into having one, I thought it might be nice to have that clear that we have one and are very invested in it in this advertisement, to show kind of that's where our community is. I could see two different places of putting that, but I wanted to see what everybody else's thoughts were on that.
So when we initially, we did talk about it a bit, and there's this balancing act between, we had the same thing with sustainability in that way, this conversation about wanting to highlight it, but not also over-highlight it because it is only a 2-page advertisement and really only a page of our bits, because other bits are taken up with how to apply and, you know, where we are in the world. So we did talk about it. We do think it's important. It is mentioned as part of our strategic priorities, but the directorship itself is not called out specifically.
What would be the viewpoint of folks if it was added to the community's commitment to education and sustainability was recently demonstrated through funding the construction of a new LED gold certified middle school, which opened? You could add commitment to education, sustainability, and DEIJ work, and you could say in the appointment of a DEIJ director in, I can't remember what it was, July 2022. You'd be adding a phrase to that there. Or you could put it as a bullet point as part of the justifiably proud of its achievements, where you could say hiring of a director. It wouldn't add more than a line. But if people don't see this from my point of view, it's okay. I'd just be very curious to know. I personally find it important, and I think it would be influential on who is applying.
I think it would be fine if we took out the School Board of the Year line and put in direct DEIJ director. Well, I mean, they're going to know we're a good school board, right? Because of all these achievements. This whole advertisement is, look how good the school board is, right?
So I'll just chime in real quick. I think this is great, and full respect to the sort of balance of content in the 2-page format. I think Matt makes a good suggestion. If presented the two options of School Board of the Year or the DEIJ coordinator, I think the one that sets us apart more is the DEIJ coordinator. You know, School Board of the Year is all fine, but school boards change year to year. I'm not sure it would have that much of a impact, whereas the coordinator position is both unique and permanent, and I think gives prospective candidates a better ability to anticipate what working for the district would be like. So those are my 2 cents.
Mike, please.
if you remove that out, but you have to keep in mind too, the superintendent works for the school board. They're gonna wanna know the school board is school board of the year, because all you gotta do is ask around the state and you'll see how issues are with school boards nowadays. So considering the superintendent is the only employee of the school board, they're gonna wanna know if their school board's good or not, because that's probably one of the first questions they ask, how's your school board? That's, I think the DEIJ, and as important as that position is, I don't think that's gonna make or break. The school board one will. I can guarantee you that.
What if we, in the second set of bullet points, combined supportive and engaged families and community partners to make that one line? That would leave extra room for another line.
Oh, yeah, Matt has information. Yeah, we're tapped out. Like, if I add another line, we're gonna have to take something out because we'll bleed over to 2 pages. I have done all the magic to get it onto 2 pages. Any more lines, something's gotta go.
I'm fine with the way it is. I'm fine with the way it is now. I think it's worded well. We did look over it, made a couple of small adjustments, but yeah, it's a lot of information in 2 pages. And anybody who's looking can probably find that information that you're talking about online, or Google search us and they'll find out, because that was heavily covered in the press. So that position.
It is also a sort of a bellwether in some ways of who is doing their homework when they apply, as to who is looking this stuff up and wants to make commentary on it. So we've mentioned it, but we haven't sort of put the bow tie on it, and therefore people, when they do their homework, we also get some priority sense out of what they are saying about things.
Go ahead.
I don't know if we're putting this to a vote. I don't know if we need to, but I guess I would say, I think this is very good. I think it works as is, but I would rather put the DEIJ coordinator position in than have something like School Board of the Year. I think it's too unique to leave out, I guess.
I'm wondering if the line right before where it said several New Hampshire Eddie Award winners amongst, could we just say school board, staff, faculty, and administration, and just put it in there? Because it was an Eddie. And again, referencing what you're saying, Heather, about doing homework, if they see school board there and they're like, what's that about? That's something they can easily look up, and then that would allow the room for the DEIJ coordinator.
I think Matt's idea was good too. Either way, you can get a line to combine community partners, supportive, engaged families. I do agree with Brian that I think leaving the School Board of the Year thing may be important. I hadn't looked at it from that point of view. But we just need a line somewhere to get it in. But I think I'll just reiterate that I think DEIJ director is important, very much so.
Are you trying to see, Heather, if it'll fit? Okay.
Tom, did you have something to say?
No, just trying to figure out where we are in discussion.
What is her official position, Jim?
Sorry, Heather.
Is she a coordinator, a director?
Director.
Okay.
Director. You guys made a vote to call her a director.
So what is her exact title so we get it correct?
DEIJ director.
Director.
(2022)?
Yeah, it was, yeah. Yes, 2020. It was, well, she started July 1st, yeah, so, yeah.
Can you shrink the spacing between paragraphs? Or, yeah, okay.
What about combining the line that Matt suggested?
How important is it to David that his title be on there? Yeah, it was a poor attempt at humor. As per the usual.
So if we can live with this sincerely spacing at the bottom, we can have both. I have split the baby. But no one's allowed to change anything else except for budgets and contracts.
I do have one word I would like to change in the very first paragraph of the thing. Instead of future focused, I would like to see that say student focused. If it's not a deal breaker, but.
It changes the meaning a great deal, which is what Gianna just said, so I'm just repeating it. And I agree with her. I think future-focused, because by definition, I think the superintendent is going to be student-focused, and we've talked a lot about students and student voice in the advertisement. I also want someone who's looking forward and really planning for the future. This is our strategic, this is the director of strategic blah, blah, blah through, the day-to-day as well as the long-term. I want someone who's thinking far, not just the fire in front of them.
All
I
right,
think it'll be all
anybody
right,
else?
Matt.
Oh,
I'm sorry, I think it'll be all right, Matt, because like in the paragraph with the bolded working together to engage every learner, it specifically is talking about committed to and supportive of quality education for all students. So I think it's your concern, I think, is being addressed there.
It's not a deal breaker. It was just something I would like to see. Yeah.
If I were applying for this district, this ad would attract me. It's really well-written and very engaging, and it says all the important things that you want to say. I think it's really well done.
So you'll come out of retirement?
It really is, all three of you, and Catherine included, an excellent product. It did a great job.
Yes, I totally agree with that. You guys did awesome.
so yes, Tom.
So can I make a motion to approve this letter with the changes that have been made in the meeting?
Second?
Second.
Okay. Any other comments? All right. All in favor? 7 in, Heather? Yeah. 7 in favor. Okay. We'll look forward to seeing it out there.
Before we move on from the superintendent search committee, have we put up a website for a webpage for the search committee, the planning, the dates, the process? Okay.
It's all underway.
If we're gonna start hearing from you guys each meeting, that needs to be quick, sooner than later.
Looks like Heather's getting her email.
I'm meeting with Jen tomorrow to talk about the webpage, but we started sketching out sort of what it would look like, and it's in PowerPoint because it is my native language anymore. So the top of the webpage would have the verbiage from the first paragraph with an inclusion of NESDEC being the search committee search firm we have hired with their link. Applications are due. That date is probably wrong because I was doing this at 11 o'clock last night and didn't feel like checking it. And the advertisement would be the link and the PDF would come up there. And you'll see notes to myself about links. The next bit, I'm gonna work with Jen on this. This is mine. She may have thoughts. Would be an infographic with the timeline, and all the text says bits and pieces, particularly about how the public gets engaged in the process and how we are using the public's feedback through the development of the candidate profile and through the public forums. We'll have a web submission for feedback for that. That's all sort of in here. Next, we'll have some version of a little bit more detail on all the bits and bobs, so the focus groups, the screening committee, what the screening committee is charged with, who's on the screening committee, and then finally, sort of what happens in December with the candidate forums, and finally the superintendent selection. So that would be the generic format for the website, and I'm meeting with Jen tomorrow to start working on putting that together.
Any discussion as far as the dates, the specific dates? Any, when I know your committee met this evening, are you, okay, you've got,
Behold the calendar.
okay.
This is version 2.0. This is not yet cleared through our schedules for the 3 school board members of the screening committee. We have a couple things we have to look through. We're having a little bit of difficulty playing dodgems. But, and then this also hasn't been cleared through NESDEC. This is in their windows, but we have specific dates that we now need to confirm with them. So there's gonna be a little bit of back and forth before we have this for you all. But looking at the focus groups in September, 1 on a Wednesday, 1 on a Thursday. That way, if you have a kiddo that has a sport on a Wednesday and you can't make the parent forum, but you can come to the online community forum or vice versa, whatever, and we still have to decide what those focus groups are, alternating days and moving around all the holidays. October, we have work to do at the school board level with the appointment of the screening committee and the candidate profile. We have to approve that. The application deadline, I knew it was wrong, it's the 27th. It's in the blue. And then we are still working on the interview days. So most of this is the timeline they proposed. We are making it work with regularly scheduled meetings, budgets coming in, budget meetings. Those are all the yellow ones. All those yellow meetings are budget meetings between the finance committee and budget workshops and other budget workshops with the whole group. Plus all the holidays. Veterans Day is really hosing us because I'd love to have interviews on the 11th, but no. Thanksgiving, and then tentatively, we're looking at the first full week of December, staying away from the budget meeting, which is the 6th, and the beginning of Hanukkah, which is sundown on the 7th, so early that week for having people here, with the decision at the 20th, meeting on the 20th. So that is the tentative. Do not put this in your calendars because it is wrong still. Meeting agenda, but we met about that earlier this evening.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, excellent, Heather, thank you. A lot of work, from the committee already, so kudos. We'll look forward to future updates. So we are on unanimous consent. Is there anything in the unanimous consent that anyone would like to pull out? Gianna?
I just have a couple questions. Is there a metric that is used to determine what the stipends are?
Yes. The metrics are determined through negotiation with the guild. So it's about time, it's about how many meetings something happens, it's about how much preparation it takes. So all of that is negotiated with the teachers.
If we need to have a discussion, we should pull that out. Do you have further questions? Let's just pull that one out so we can have that discussion. So actually, it looks like you want to pull out the 3 stipend ones, correct? So,
It depends what the protocol is. I was just curious because in general, if it's by hours, then the athletic ones are paid on average more than the academic ones. I just wanted to know why. If it's hourly, then it...
Sure, so the other part of this is comparative analysis with other school systems. Athletics are always paid more than non-athletics across the country. I know that's not the answer you want to hear, but that's the truth. So when you're negotiating these, you have to have comparables, and the comparables are there.
But this is all part of the guild contract, and since we don't really have
all
any...
part of negotiations with the guild.
Okay, well, that answered the question. I think I will drop it at this point.
okay, so given that, I will make a motion to move the unanimous consent agenda, which is motion to approve the ORMS one-year maternity leave of absence for 2023-2024. Mohammed maternity leave of absence from approximately November 20th, 2023 through April 8th, 2023. The nomination of the Oyster River High School department heads and activity stipends for the 2023-2024 school year. The nominations for the Oyster River Middle School activity stipends for the 2023-2024 school year. And the nominations for Mastway and Mohammed Elementary School activity stipends also for the 2023-2024 school year. Can I have a second? Tom? Okay, all in favor? 7 in favor.
I was kind of hoping no one would second it, so she'd have to say it all over again, because it was a super big mouthful.
It was a lot. Okay, so now we are on our discussion, our only discussion item for the evening, which is our school board goals. And so there were 2 things sent out. One was a memo from me, which just, it was meant to just be sort of a general discussion starter, and then Michael's much more thorough board goals from 2022-2023. And so I'm going to start the discussion this evening.
Before the board starts, could I just say something, Denise? I know that Heather put up that very tentative calendar from now until you make your selection. When you look at that and how many blocks are full, I had advised the board earlier to be thinking about what you think you can actually handle in this upcoming school year, where you're replacing the superintendent and it's going to take an enormous amount of your time. So my recommendation is for you to consider what goals you can accomplish from January to June, because I think you have your goal for September to December, which is get the budget done and hire a new superintendent, and that's going to take an enormous amount of time from the committee. So having said that, if you want.
Yeah, I had that in mind, and just in terms of, obviously the superintendent search is uppermost. My idea in terms of just beginning the discussion for a strategic plan in the spring, just in terms of thinking about what we want to do for a timeline, in preparation for getting that underway. And then the competency-based learning and reporting, which I know we definitely have already had some discussion around wanting to continue to follow up on that. But yeah, other ideas, or what people would like to see.
I think this is a good list. There's a lot in it, even though it looks typed out, looks small. But I do think it's a good idea to start after the new superintendent decision has been made, to start thinking about putting together our next strategic plan, which we extended for 1 year, so it goes through the end of the next school year. But if we start now, we've got plenty of time to get one in place before that old one expires or finishes or something like that.
So I had a question about that, and when we extended it for 1 year, I guess in my mind, I had always assumed we would end up extending it for 2. We would just do it in 2 bits, because strategic planning with the superintendent who has been in-house for 3 months seems unfair to the superintendent. And I wanted people's opinions on that. It felt like you sort of need the first year to get your boots on the ground and sort of get a feel for the community before you then, because my understanding was the last strategic planning process was slightly unwieldy. And so that if that is the only, like the superintendent is trying to wrangle that on their first year, that might be a disservice to that person, and that having that happen in year 2 may be may make a better product, may be a better process, all of those things. I wanted people's opinions on that.
I think you're right, though, but currently it has 2 years left on it.
Expires in 24, right?
No, didn't we? Didn't we put it out to 24, 25? Which is,
Think of it as an opportunity.
can't we just go Christmas to Christmas? I think you're correct. I think that wouldn't give the new person a chance to understand, to put a very good strategy together.
Tom, did you have something?
No, I would agree with Heather. I think that you want to give the person time to learn the district, and that person may have a different sense of what a strategic plan. I mean, we have a template, and that person may have a different sense of what a strategic plan might look like. So I think we need some time there. So I would agree with that.
Yeah, I had it in my head that essentially there was 3 years left, but my numbers were not correct.
I had an item, and I don't know whether it should go on, but we've talked about doing a review within the Finance Committee, and I think to some degree in the whole board, of doing a review of the facility use fees that we have. And so, I mean, I've written out a possible charge, but I'll just read it out. The Finance Committee will review the current charges for facility use, comparing them to comparable, it's never well written, comparing them to comparable charges in the area, and possibly making recommendations for changes. Their report should come in March 2024. That's just gives us, pushing it off till March after the budget. But we've talked about that in the Finance Committee, and I think that's kind of overdue to take a look at that. So, and that's I think Jim, you mentioned that you felt that was time to look at that as well.
Yes, it is. It's we analyze the use of the fields, and what we're seeing is that parties other than the school system are using the turf field as much as we are. So part of it is the use, what's the use? And then the other part is what are others charging for the use of the turf fields?
Tom, can you submit perhaps to Wendy, or, so that we
Sure.
can include that?
Sure, because we're not voting tonight.
Oh, no. We're definitely not voting tonight. This is just to get the discussion started. Dan?
I liked Tom's idea. Also, the policy requires the full board to review the fees each year. I don't believe we've done that yet this year. So it doesn't require an in-depth analysis. It's just a review, asking for feedback from the superintendent, facilities directors, athletic director, that kind of thing, on any sort of short-term changes that we should make. But I think I like Tom's idea that finance do a sort of deep dive and then come to us with any recommendations that they make. And that maybe that would be done in conjunction with facilities and athletic director, assuming that works, logistically.
Heather?
I think it's a great idea. I was wondering if simultaneously we should put a charge on the policy committee to look at, I know we stripped that language at one point. Do we need to put it back, or is there language we need to adopt in the policy if fees were to go back in place? I don't remember what's in the policy exactly, so if there is something that needed to be done with the policy simultaneously that we should both shoot for being sort of ready in March.
It wouldn't be simultaneous because you'd need a recommendation for finance, and then it would swing over to policy.
The fee schedule's in our document as it stands currently, so that's relatively easy to make adjustments to. But for example, if there were recommendations for changes on allocation of time when there's conflicting requests from third parties, that's the most substantive and detailed part of the policy, and that might require some changes. So we would cross that bridge when we come to it.
Is there any tightening of language of nonprofit, or do we need to look at that language as well? I'm trying to think things through, and so we can also push this down to actually when the finance committee has a recommendation. But they're just trying to sort of bulletproof it right off the bat.
So if the board adopts this as a goal for the year, then my recommendation will be to go status quo for until such time as the board has made a change, because it doesn't make any sense for you to make any adjustments in the fall when we're going to do a full review in the winter, spring. So when I put it in front of the board, maybe the next meeting, I just simply say, this is the fee structure, please review it, approve it, and we'll move on. But to do what Tom is suggesting is a lot more work, and then to feed it off into policies, a lot more work still. So it doesn't make sense to do dramatic changes, or even minor changes for that matter, in the fall. I think we're...
Like January to March?
Yes. Yeah. January to March, yes. Maybe January to April or May, because if once finance gets done with it, it has to scoot over to policy, so.
So I guess I poorly worded this whole conversation, so let's try it again. In the goal to look at fee assessments, what Tom said specifically mentioned finance looking at it. Would we also want to add a statement about policy and then a date which the policy committee would have that review done as part of one overarching facilities usage goal?
We could definitely do that. If we have that finance finishes with it in March, we could certainly say that policy would review it in April with, bringing it to the board, in May.
We could also say the goal would be to have the fee schedule updated and reviewed for the next school year.
Well, that'll happen just because it's part of the policy. I'll do that in the next meeting.
Okay.
Now that I know the board.
No.
Now that I know the board
not
has
this
this as a bigger
upcoming, but
goal, I'll
next.
just bring it in the next meeting and be done with it.
All right, are there other goals or other, yes, Heather?
So mine are nowhere near as nicely put together as Tom's. But I had 3. One is sort of a monitoring goal. So Suzanne comes and tells us about how the testing is going and the score reporting and the cohort tracking. I don't know if that needs to be a goal or if that's just something that happens per procedure, but I'd like that to continue.
That's part of our practice.
One that may not be is that we talked about the youth risk behavior surveys last year at both the middle and the high school, and maybe an update on how the programs we are looking at putting into place, or we have put into place, if we are seeing any successes with those. It's not a fully defined idea, it could be crap. But it was something that we talked about. We talked about the toolbox, and if we had any sort of information on how the toolbox is working, I would be interested in seeing that.
So we can do that as a report as well, Heather?
2 that might be actual goals. One is I really enjoyed Rachel's workshop for the board, and I'd like to have another one. So a DEIJ workshop. And then this is piggybacking off what Denise had with the communication system. I imagine that Jen and Josh are already going to come and talk to us about reporting on the website survey that's up. There's a website survey that's up so people can provide their feedback on the website for all 2 people who are watching them, and one of them is Suzanne's husband. Hi, Jeff. And then continued work in communications on standardizing district communications, particularly the visual identity, and people or branding essentially, and looking at especially externally facing PowerPoints that district members give to conferences. They should all have the same look and feel. They should all have the district logo on them. They should all be made with an accessible color palette, high contrast color palette. They should all be made with fonts that are accessible and easily read, and a template that everyone uses would be and just sort of working on the visual identity of the district would be something that I think would be a good thing to do through the communications position.
So that one should be a goal. The others we can take care of as we do the reports throughout the year. But we didn't have this as part of Jen's goals as she did the best practices and the webpage. So she'd be thrilled to be picking up another, component of that. So I think that would be great.
So, and I had said to Wendy, but I'm actually wondering, and Dr. Morris, since this was my draft for these, for both Tom's and for Heather's, if they send them to me and I can put them in another version of the draft.
Yeah, I think I have enough information where I can roughly word something, and then you can have the 5 goals there for review for the next meeting.
Okay, that's fine. I just wasn't sure how, as long as we have those. So what I'm hearing, though, just to be clear, is we're going to take off any goal related to strategic plan. Are we everybody on the same page with that? Okay, so we'll take off that. Are people okay with the superintendent search transition as it's outlined here?
Can I add a component
Yeah.
that Matt has mentioned a couple of times that kind of goes with Heather's idea of standardized branding, which is the implementation plan for Parent Square? Matt had raised that at 11 meetings. So I'll share those. Yeah, I'll share those 2 with Jen, and then she may have another one that she wants to make sure is done this school year, and so I'll maybe have a 3-parter, because she's amazing and she'll take it on.
Yeah, I did mention Parent Square in mine, just regarding the use of new technologies such as Parent Square. But, I mean, we can certainly put it out as bullet points. That's fine. Absolutely. So to just make it more, kind of stand out. Yes, Tom?
One thing that I don't see here, we're going to have a middle school principal search, aren't we?
That's this year.
So that would be my goal.
Oh, wait, yeah. This is this.
Yeah, we'll advertise in October, and then we'll pretty much follow the same process that you're going through with the superintendent search, screening committee, and interviews. I hope to have that process done by the end of January.
Okay.
Yes, Jana?
I've got a related one to that. This is kind of what I was thinking. It's probably based upon what committees I'm actually on. Do we have any kind of status regarding a mental health counselor at the high school? Because that's not a school board goal, but that'd be you.
It'll be a budget goal for this year based on the report that Shannon gave to the full board last fall/winter. I don't think you were on the board at the time, Gianna, but she did the youth risk survey report, and at the end of it, I asked her what is the #1 need of the department, and I was thinking department like 5 through 12 or even K through 12, and she said mental health counseling. So that will be part of the draft that I present to the finance committee, because I think we really need to start building that part of the resource for supporting children. And we've done such a marvelous job as a school system, building and building and building, and post-COVID, the mental health piece has just come right to the top, and so we need to have experts in that area as well.
Right, because that was when I came on the board, when I asked various people when I've asked Rebecca Noe what her priority was, what if I could get her something, what could it be? That's what she told me.
Me too.
But one of the things that one is like, this would be like a subcommittee goal, but with the wellness committee, I wanted to try and move it towards working on that mental health piece, including involving student involvement, because the students are so incredibly valuable with their insights of what they want.
They did a great student presentation last year. They did a great student presentation several years ago. So, you're absolutely right. Our kids are amazing, and this is something that they're super interested in. It could be set off as a side for Shannon and be able to focus on it. So wellness committee is more global, but to fine tune this presentation and its need and how we would go about it seems like something I would ask Shannon to do.
Okay, so I was saying that's not something that's really going to be falling under this outline, but that's kind of what I'm on.
It'll come through in the budget, my budget, and then whether it survives or not is up to the 7 of you.
Okay. And then the only other thought I had was looking at the previous year's goals with the DEAJ coordinators, that a lot of those actually, the goals based there were bled into 2024. And I don't know if we wanted to simply add that to this, simply just to be kind of monitoring, because we didn't quite reach some of those goals. It wouldn't necessarily change the focus. It definitely could be something that's hitting the spring semester rather than piling it onto the superintendent committee. But I just thought, I don't know if we wanted to put that in here too.
So the goals that you are establishing are the things that are important to the 7 of you. I'll continue to do the administrative work and do the multiple presentations. We've got into a really good pattern that I hope survives, which is we tend to do a fall, winter, spring presentation on important issues, whether it's DEIJ or communications or whether it's competency work. You know, we tend to take 3 bites of an apple annually, and we've been doing that since we started it before COVID, but we got back into it full time last year, and I'd like to maintain that rhythm. So even if it doesn't show up here, it'll show up, you'll get presentations from the staff like you did last year.
As far as, I see what you're saying in terms of, because some of that was 2024. I mean, we could continue, just have that goal, a DEIJ goal, with including those specific items. If we still want the focus, I'm just not sure, again, with the superintendent search, it might be better, in fact, to kind of revisit it for the following year. I'm just not sure if it really belongs in this year.
I guess what I'm saying is I'm going to pick off some of that stuff anyway. It's not going to go away. There's stuff there that Rachel wants to continue. The suggestion of a second workshop for the board wasn't on that list. I think that's brilliant. It gives you a chance to interact with Rachel. She did such a fantastic job in that presentation, and she has 6 or 8 of them now in her pocket that she did for staff, and to bring those to the board, I think, is just really a great idea, to stay connected with the work that she's doing, because we are one of 4 systems that has a DEIJ coordinator, a director, and the work is cutting edge. So I'll pick up that piece too, Denise, and when I reincorporate this as a report to you guys, and then you can say whether it hits the mark or not.
What about the competency-based learning and reporting? Oh, go, Heather. Was that something else, or, excuse me? That's what I was going to talk about. Okay, go right ahead. Well, my question was, did people have things from that category that they wanted to change or add, or?
So I think I like the idea of it. The only thing I wasn't entirely sure about was what we would be asking about. So engaging the survey center to survey students and parents regarding their experience, but that seems very nebulous, and whether we could tighten that language down,
So,
whether we could like borrow Suzanne, like dragoon her into that goal.
Yeah, we've done, so the first place we start when we're doing a survey is at this table. This is a survey you want information on, so we just do a very global conversation about what is the information you want as board members. And then Suzanne and I will sit down and try to capture that with the research center. Then they'll take those and turn them into measurable questions. So we need the global feedback from you so that the research center can carve those down into questions they can actually articulate and matriculate and articulate to you at the end. So it has to start with you. This is the survey that the board wants done. And so we should do that conversation in January. And then I can get that going. I can bring in the research center. They'll do their thing. They'll bring a draft back to the body. You could also, in January, appoint a subcommittee and let them do the work with me. It's really that's how we've done it in the past, and we've gotten great results from starting at the board level when it's a board level survey.
Yeah, and this was just continuing, because this is the piece that sort of got sidetracked from COVID, because we had actually worked on this, having this survey. I know Tom mentioned it before, and so we really want to get back to that. So I hear what you're saying, Heather. I think probably just the fact that we have it on here as a goal, and then we can talk more specifically about what we want to see in the survey.
Yeah, because I'm all for having it as a goal. I just wanted to, like, people could be thinking it was different things, and then we get to January, like, well, I thought we were going to talk about this, but I thought we were going to talk about that, whether or not we needed a little bit more definition now.
So I'll attach dates to these as well to make sure they fall in line so it doesn't all show up in 1 month.
Okay, anything else?
So I'd just like to say that I really think the competency-based learning with both the education and grading is important. There's actually one of the questions I'd have there is whether or not the learning and reporting is usually said competency-based education and grading. So we might want to keep the language consistent so people know what we're talking about. Even though reporting and grading are the same thing, it doesn't necessarily sound that way if you're not using the same abbreviation. And definitely, I wouldn't mind being able to try and get some more dates on this a little concretely, just because we keep losing it, and this one's pretty important. So I'm glad this one is here.
Okay, so we'll just look for some revisions, and we'll take a look at it at our next meeting, and yeah.
And, you know, the next meeting, when I've captured your thoughts, doesn't mean it's done.
Right.
Usually you'll tinker some more once you see it, and the goal would be to get these adopted in the first meeting of September, because it plays into the district goals as teachers and administrators make their own goals. So our goal should be to have it done in the first meeting of September.
Okay, are there any school board committee updates? Nothing there. And no members of the public visible. So our closing actions, our next regular meeting is August 16th. And then we will have a meeting September 6th. I imagine that there is a manifest meeting scheduled. So the members of the manifest committee probably need to.
For the 30th, yeah.
For the 30th, okay, yep. So there'll be that, and we have no non-public or non-meetings this evening. So with that, I will have a motion to adjourn. Heather?
A motion to adjourn.
And a second. Gianna? All in favor? We have 7 in favor. We are through. Thank you.